So Trevor Noah got in some big trouble because Trevor Noah had a critique of the COVID situation that somehow was outside. Because you remember what Noam Chomsky taught us, the liberal press, the corporate press is there to set the parameters of conversation. And if you go outside those parameters, you're a dead man. And that's what happened to Trevor Noah, because you're not allowed to question anything about COVID, the COVID response, vaccines. You're not allowed to question anything, or else you are out. You are out of our group. You're out of our cult. You are a Trumper. You are a right-winger. You're crazy. Well, he did it. And I want to remind everybody, Forbes expects $33.5 billion in just vaccine revenue in 2021. How much money is that, Jimmy? $33.5 billion just from vaccines. Well, the United States' entire recorded music industry generates $12.2 billion in 2020. So that's like almost 3 times as much as every. So that's from Post Malone to Frank Sinatra to Mozart. Every piece of recorded music. The entire recording music industry in the United States only generated $12.2 billion in 2020. They expect to make $33.5 billion just from the vaccine. So just the vaccine is larger than the entire music industry in the United States. Think about fucking that. That's quite a stat. I'm pretty proud of myself that I came up with that.
But Jimmy, once you figure in, the amount of fines they have to pay for their other stuff,
yeah, they have to
probably like $30 billion.
Yeah. So now, why do I tell you that? Because obviously this was on Trevor Noah's mind. Now, Trevor Noah is a fine comedian, I'm sure. I objected to him taking over The Daily Show because he's from another country, and this is all about our country and our culture. And I think it would be nice if you grew up in our culture to then be able to comment on our culture. That's all. Not against love foreigners, love foreigner comedians. I love the band Foreigner.
Jimmy, he's just taking the jobs Americans don't want.
That's right. Nobody wanted that job. They couldn't find an American to do that job. So that's why I objected to it. And the show is tanking. It doesn't do well in the ratings. It's not that interesting because he just repeats the establishment talking point. He just became a Democratic mouthpiece, which is not what Jon Stewart was when he hosted that show. And so now it just became shit lib central. And so nobody really watches it. But guess what? He's starting to think for himself. And that's a problem. Listen.
On the one hand, almost all the Omicron cases have been mild so far. But on the other hand, the guy who stands to gain millions of dollars from new vaccines says we need new vaccines. If we don't make a new vaccine, this disease could be with us forever. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. Now, look, I'm not saying that the CEO of Moderna is lying. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I don't think he's the most objective source on this topic. I'll wait to hear what neutral experts say about a new vaccine. People like public health officials or the CEO of Johnson & Johnson. He's got nothing to gain because nobody's going to buy his vaccines either way. So
it's a good joke.
Wow.
So let me play it again. Let me play it because it's real quick.
On the one hand, almost all the Omicron cases have been mild so far. But on the other hand, the guy who stands to gain millions of dollars from new vaccines says we need new vaccines. If we don't make a new vaccine, this disease could be with us forever.
Oh my God. He made a joke that poked a hole in the COVID narrative from the establishment. Guess what? He's in trouble. Daily Show host Trevor Noah blasted for knocking Moderna's CEO's vaccine push.
He's fomenting hesitancy with those jokes.
He's fomenting. You mean he actually had a critical thought about something they're saying about the vaccines? He must be banished. He must be put outside the cult. He's going to get people killed from a virus that has a 0.89% hospitalization rate. Well, here's the story. No one's laughing at the Daily Show host Trevor Noah's. I was. Kurt, were you laughing?
I haven't. It was the most I've laughed in a long time at Trevor.
I've never laughed at him before. This is the first time I ever laughed at him. So these are two comedians. I have an award-winning special on Comedy Central, chosen Best of the Year by iTunes. Kurt also has a fantastic special on Comedy Central, also an Emmy Award-winning comedy writer, and we laughed at it. So I'm going to say no to this story. This story, again, starting off on a bullshit line. No one's laughing at the Daily Show host Trevor Noah, except people who really know comedy. No one's laughing at the Daily Show host Trevor Noah's new take on coronavirus vaccine maker Moderna.
Punching down.
Yeah. The late night comedian appears to be suspicious. Okay. He appears to be suspicious of Moderna CEO Stephanie Bancel, who recently went public with concerns over how well he... Oh, Stephane? Is that Stephane? Stephane Bancel, who recently went public with concerns over how well his vaccine will hold up against the Omicron variant, or as Joe Biden says, the Omnicron. He's suspicious. Is he suspicious? How dare he be suspicious of a fucking big pharma CEO? That guy is he's a Trumper.
Wait, Jimmy, it just says he appears to be. So let's hold off.
Oh, let's hold off.
He appears to be suspicious.
Oh, he appears to be.
We have to talk. You have to talk to him.
Wait, well, let's see what other bad thing he did. Noah questioned. Oh my God, he's questioning. He's suspicious and he's questioning. He questioned Bancel's intentions as he alleges that the pharma boss may not be the most objective source for pandemic predictions. Holy shit!
Objective source, in quote.
They put it in quote. They put it in quotes. He may not be the most objective source. They put it in quotes. Well, God, he was suspicious and he questioned. And guess what that means? This seems to be spreading an anti-vax point of view. That's literally what it said under his tweet. I'm not making this up.
Well, the Moderna, you know how Fauci is science? The Moderna CEO is vaccines.
Is vaccines. That's amazing. It got 206 likes. That's not just this person's opinion. There's a bunch of morons just like it. Hey, saying you'd rather trust public health officials rather than a man with an MBA is the opposite of anti-vax point of view. So this is what happens. If you have this, people call me anti-vax because I have a critique of the lies of Dr. Fauci, and I have a critique of the lies of the administration, and I have a critique of the lies of Big Pharma, and I have a critique of mandates, which are bullshit. From a worker's perspective, they should be done away with. So that's what, so I say that. People go, oh, you're anti-vax. Jimmy Dore's anti-vax. Why? Because when they make that video, it gets a lot of clicks because this show's really popular. That's the only reason.
Well, also, Oxford changed the definition to include being anti-mandate.
Yes, if you're I guess technically they have changed the definition of vaccines to meet to make these new vaccines. They changed the definition. Webster did that.
No, I thought it was Oxford. I didn't check Webster. I know Oxford did.
Let's check Webster. So the dictionary changed the definition of vaccine to anti-vax. That's what. So maybe you're thinking about. So they
changed anti-vax
to
include anti-mandates.
That's it. They changed anti-vax to include anyone who opposes mandates. That's not anti-vax. That is not. So here, there's more to this. Hey, maybe calling someone an anti-vaxxer for doubting the intentions of a CEO who is unarguably jumping the gun and saying we are definitely going to need a new product he just happens to supply is not the best take. I got my booster Saturday and by no means anti-vax, but come on.
Wait, so he only has one? He only got one booster?
He only got one.
That's anti-vax.
I think he's spreading hesitancy. He's fomenting hesitancy by just getting the one booster.
Get a couple.
They're out, and Israel's on their fourth already. What are you, an anti-vaxxer? So everybody seems to be like, okay, this is a little too cult behavior, and we have to be able to push back and question at least a pharmaceutical CEO. You can't even question them now. Do you see how bad it's gotten? And it's not rare. People close to me think like this, or people who used to be close to me think like this. Exactly like this. Hey, what are you, an anti-vaxxer? Why? I heard you thinking for yourself. Did you have a thought, your own original thought? That means you're an anti-vaxxer.
Well, Jimmy, I like to think of mainstream boundaries as an Australian COVID camp that I keep my mind in. And stay away from the fence. Don't poke your finger out of it at the other people. You'll spread COVID.
You don't want to spread COVID. So now that guy who said that, this sounds anti-vaxxy, he responds to this guy. And says, not saying he's anti-vax about Trevor Noah. It could be misinterpreted and muddy the waters.
Wow, there it is right there. Don't say the truth, this is like old cult stuff when I was Jehovah's Witness. Don't stumble your brother from the one true faith just because something's real or true. You have to keep, because you might stumble them out of their faith.
And
that's like out of the Bible, that kind of shit.
And so that's what he's saying. You might stumble somebody out of their vaccine faith, right?
Yeah, right.
That's what he's saying. You're going to muddy the waters.
Misinterpreted.
And then people are going to think that vaccine. So you can't even. So what this person says is great. So unquestionable compliance is what you want? Yes. You are never allowed to question because it might muddy the waters. So just be compliant. Do whatever the CEO of Moderna says, or else you might. What is it? What did you?
Might boogaloo the.
You might boogaloo somebody out of their vaccine religion. The waters are already muddy. Waters are already long since muddied, unfortunately. Welcome to the internet. And some people are going to use X statement in bad faith. Has rarely, if ever, to my mind, been a good argument against making said statement. So that guy's saying, hey, you shouldn't tell that truth because other people are going to twist it and fool other people. So I can't tell the truth because someone else is going to twist it?
Well, I mean, he's wrong because that's the same reason our government keeps so many things top secret. It could be.
That's right.
That's why the government has to hide things from us.
And muddy the waters. You also do that every time you try to police the way people speak when you're too shallow to even have an interesting opinion. Stop pretending to care about politics. That was my favorite one. That guy really got him. He goes, you're muddying the water every time you try to police the way people speak about COVID and vaccines because you're too shallow to have an interesting opinion. Exactly. The people who call me anti-vax don't have an original thought in their head about vaccines or COVID or the COVID response or Fauci or mandates. They don't have an original thought. And if they do, they're too cowardly to say it, which is why I have this huge lane. Nobody on the left, they're all fucking nutless wonders. They're all nutless wonders. Not one of them has a critique of the COVID policy, but they will now start to parrot Trevor and pretend like they do. Go watch. You watch the other YouTube shows. They're going to cover Trevor Noah saying this and act like they've always been skeptical too. Watch that. Watch those fucking bullshitters. The only person on fucking YouTube who has been offering a critique at all against this bullshit, against the COVID, Fauci, Biden mandates, has been this goddamn show and the Gray Zone.
Russell Brand, too.
I don't put him in this category. He's got 4 million. He's a superstar celebrity. Mm-hmm. But yes, I will say Russell Brand, of course. Russell Brand. But I'm talking about your regular lefty that came out of the Bernie Sanders movement YouTube hosts. None of them. They're all fucking nutless wonders. Every one of them. Gutless. But now they're going to start, now Trevor Noah made it safe for them to have a critique of just the big pharma, maybe?
Thank you, Trevor Noah, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Trevor Noah.
It's actually great that he did that.
It is. It's amazing. This is his biggest contribution to America since he got here, and I tip the hat to him for this.
This former Cuomo-sexual, remember he used to say
he was a Cuomo-sexual.
Yeah, he got converted back to.
So here's what somebody says to that person. So you aren't allowed to say something that is objectively true because it might be perceived as anti-vax? That seems a bit religious and dogmatic. Well, Kurt here, he grew up in a cult. He knows all about it. He says, yes, that sounds exactly like a cult, right?
Yeah. By the way, what I consider a cult is if you're in a religion and you have to do it.
Yeah.
Like Catholic, you don't have to do it. But at Jehovah's Witness, you had to do it. And a big thing was keep your doubts, keep them down. Like just pray for more faith and don't stumble your brother or sister out of the one true faith, because that's the worst thing that can happen.
How do you get even the notion of anti-vax out of that? I am so tired of people having this myopic view and wanting to constantly relate to individuals in groups. I swear, as a society, I am seeing de-evolution of the human race. 102 likes, so that gave me hope.
It's a good point, because how do you know Trevor doesn't just really love the Pfizer one?
Right?
Maybe he just doesn't like Moderna. I wouldn't take Moderna. I took Pfizer when I got vaxxed.
And so now he's being skeptical of needing a third, fourth, and fifth shot. That's what he's doing. That's what Trevor Noah's doing. And so he's just the first one in the mainstream press. Well, he's actually the second one because Bill Maher said it before, right? Mm-hmm. But they could dismiss Bill Maher because he talks to right-wingers on his show. So they dismissed him, right? As like he's a Tucker Carlson. But
He'll still go on his show, by the way.
Oh, of course. Everybody in the world would go on his show. And everyone would go on Tucker's show if he invited him to. And so he's now the first. So if you don't count Bill Maher, I would say Trevor Noah is the first one in mainstream news to do, or in mainstream culture to do this. People are still shitting on everybody else who says anything, including this show. Nobody will ever argue with a fact that we have on this show. No one will ever argue with a fact. People who criticize this show's stance on COVID response, people who criticize our coverage of COVID, they'll admit they don't watch our show. They'll admit it, right? They'll admit, I don't watch his show, but he's anti-vax. That's what
you're helping. The only thing I've ever heard, because I've heard people, I've had conversation with people, the same thing. All they'll say is you're helping. Basically, you're aiding the terrorists.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Iraq war. Like, are you with us or are you with terror?
That's right. No, I have an alternative news show where we push back against the narrative. But they don't want you to tell the truth because you might stumble someone out of their vaccine religion. That's what they're saying to you. Do you say that back to them? This is like when I was in Jehovah's Witness. You're afraid Jimmy might tell a truth that'll stumble somebody out of their vaccine religion?
Probably my main thing that I repeat ad nauseum is that, because it comes up a lot. It even reminds me of Jehovah's Witnesses predicted Armageddon was coming a bunch of times. It didn't come. Yeah. And this reminds me, like, yeah, you'll get the vaccine. I got it, so I wouldn't have to wear a mask, and I wouldn't get COVID. Like, no, you just need more They keep moving the goalposts.
Yes.
Like,
and these people, and so Trevor Noah is just first because everybody else is going to come to the same conclusion Trevor Noah came to, which is the same conclusion we came to. Is that we should start following the money on this and find out what they're not telling us. I've said that a million times on this show. Why doesn't anybody ever tell you on television to make sure you're not obese, to lose weight? Because that's a big factor in the people who end up hospitalized from COVID. How come they don't tell you to get your vitamin D's up? That's a huge... because you have to get ready to get it because it's likely, because guess what? COVID is never going away. That's from the WHO. COVID-19 won't be eradicated. Global health experts expect COVID-19 to circulate and mutate in a similar way to the flu. This was from September. So that's from the WHO. So are you just going to take one of these COVID vaccines for the rest of your life? Because they say after a couple of months, it wanes. So now that's what the Moderna guy's saying. You're going to have to get a new one every year. And Trevor Noah is pushing back against that and the people who are calling him anti-vax don't know this. This is the thing they don't know. They think that if we could just get enough people doing what Fauci says, we can get rid of this virus. Well, according to the WHO, it won't ever be eradicated. According to the WHO.
By the way, Jimmy, I'm sure Trevor also doesn't know that, except South Africa is where he's from, right? And he's
Yes.
got family there. So he knows the unfair bullshit they did with South Africa with the Trump-style travel bans.
Yes.
And so it's a thing that directly affects. He's probably talking to people back there, and so he knows Omicron's not the thing that they're trying to make it out. So it's just once it affects you, then you're like, oh, I see the lie now. It happened.
Yeah, so he saw through it because they had to they banned travel from Africa. But you know that the Omicron virus has shown up in at least 14 countries around the world. They didn't ban it from Spain. They didn't ban travel from Spain. It's showed up there too. There's been a lot of other countries that Omicron is in. They haven't banned travel from there, but they did ban it from Africa. And he knows that because he's from South Africa. And just like Kurt said, he probably has heard people tell him that this virus, it appears to be, very mild. And then he sees everybody freaking out about it in the United States. And he has direct knowledge from his family in South Africa about this virus. And he sees how people are freaking out about him. So now it clicks the skeptical part of his brain, and Trevor Noah has an original thought, and he's immediately ostracized out of the cult. He's immediately out of the shit lib cult. Look at him. He's an anti-vaxxer. He's muddying the waters. So, hey, Trevor, I appreciate it. Welcome to my world.
He's an apostate.
Yeah, welcome to I was called every name in the book. I was called a Trumper. I was called a right-winger. Called a grifter. Why? Because I debunked Russiagate. That same thing they said about me about the Syria gas attacks. Now they're saying the same thing about this. It never ends. Because I'm out in front and first. Because we're out in front and first saying this. Now Trevor Noah's catching up to us. We've been saying stuff like this for a couple of months.
By the way, sounds like a real profitable grift. Debating the Syria narrative.
Yeah.
Talking about a hot grift. Everyone's can't wait to be grifted
Yeah,
with.
you know that big grift. But I'm in the pocket of big peace, Kurt. I'm in the pocket of big peace and socialized medicine. That's my grift. I told everybody for a year and a half straight during COVID, don't give me your money, keep it. It's COVID, nobody has money. Everybody else was sending out fundraising letters 3 times a week. I was ending every video telling people to keep their money. But I'm the grifter. Again, nobody trusts those people. Who say that about me. People don't. The only people who trust them are the people who already hated me. Those are Democratic Party hacks, and those are Democratic Party supporters. That's all that is. That's all those people are talking to. People who think voting for Joe Biden is a morally correct thing to do. Voting for Joe Biden is an evil, just like voting for Trump was an evil. Those are evils. Hey, come see one of our live stand-up shows December 10th or 17th or New Year's Eve at the Two Roads Theater in Studio City, California. See you there. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets.